Hi everyone. I just pressed the live button. I think it will take few seconds before all of you start receiving my feed. Yes, we are experimenting with new time today. Yeah. So each experiment takes time before we know it is working or not working. So it was 1 hour delayed than our traditional or usual start time. So we are starting our PMP exam prep power hour. That's what we call this episode series. And today in our 27th episode, I want to discuss about a topic, estimation. And after we talk a little bit around estimation, then we can talk about your specific questions related to PMP preparation. I do have one question which I have prepared, which I received from the community. In our WhatsApp community, there is an option of pushing questions to me in advance. There was another one which was little vague, so I'm not sure how much I can take care of it, but there was one question which I can take care from that community as well. So this is how our plan is, that in general, we will talk about a topic for 20 to 30 minutes. That's the usual time I take. And then followed by a conversation on your questions and answer, any question related to your PMP preparation. So welcome everyone. I'm your host Saket Bansal, and I do teach PMP, Agile, Scaled Agile related topics. And our focus for today is primarily around PMP certification. Now, estimation. So I personally believe estimation is not only a topic for your PMP exam, it is a topic for general project management as well. And many a time, as a project managers, we are expected to estimate. We are expected to estimate time, we are expected to estimate cost. The estimation is, I would say, the very core element of planning. Without estimation, we can't do planning. So what is estimation? One thing we need to be very clear as a project manager, the estimates are not equals to commitment. If I am committing something to finish at a given point in time, that's something I am projecting. That's a commitment. But I need to find out estimate which will help me in achieving that particular commitment. So say I want to take a flight and I have booked a flight for a particular date. I have a little milestone and high commitment there. But my estimate to reach to an airport may not be accurate, but I need to take care of my estimate accordingly so that I don't miss my flight. So we cannot equate estimation with commitment, but estimation always have errors. Now, estimation, which I think about going to airport in the beginning of the week, may not hold true when I start planning for my tomorrow morning travel to an airport, and may require more revisit when I am starting for an airport in that particular morning. Maybe the environment, the weather, and all those things may change, and I need to adjust it. The more confidence, the more historical data I have, my estimation will be better. I can easily figure out my commitment based on my estimates. But if my historical data is poor, the situation is very dynamic, then I need to make some kind of reserves and contingency if my commitments are high to make sure that I meet my commitment even if my estimations are wrong. So for a project managers, it's an ongoing activity. You do as per the stage of project, you try to achieve the maximum accuracy possible at given point in time. You are not purposefully missing the information, but at the same time you understand, you also communicate to your stakeholder, the estimation accuracy improves over a period of time. So that's something we start with and talk about estimation. Now the term to show this kind of variability and uncertainty in estimation is also known as a cone of uncertainty. So you might see a cone where you have a higher band and then it becomes a lower band. It's kind of shrink like this, that kind of a diagram you see. So it talks about that in the beginning of the project. Yeah? So say typically, definitely each project will have different amount of variances, different amount of uncertainty. But any project we start with, the amount of variability we have is high in the beginning. And as we start making decisions, as we start learning about our customer, as we make our frequent releases, our uncertainty starts getting reduced. So cone of uncertainty is a representation, it's a term which shows that our estimation accuracy is expected to improve over a period of time. In the beginning of our project, if you are doing rough order of magnitude estimate in the beginning, project charter during that, you may have a plus minus maybe 50% or maybe 100% error. Now somebody will say, do we have a defined percentage, that much error will be there when we are doing rough order of magnitude estimate? The answer is no, it is not defined, because each project is variable, each organization is variable. The amount of historical data you have is also a variable. But we can fairly assume that in my project management plan with my stakeholders, I can clarify that there will be high amount of accuracy as we go further in our estimation. In the initial stage, accuracy will be poor, and we may have some percentage estimate for that accuracy also, that at these particular stages, accuracy will be, say, plus minus 50% at the beginning. Maybe after 1 month, when we do a little bit better estimate, maybe plus minus 20%. Maybe after 3 months in the project, when we revisit after first phase 1, our accuracy may start coming to 5 to 10%. So estimation accuracies are expected to improve over a period of time, and that particular concept in our project management is represented with the help of cone of uncertainty. Yeah. So as a project manager, estimation is continuous activity. You never stop estimating. At any point in time when you are informing your stakeholder where we stand, you also need to estimate how the remaining duration will turn out. And now looking at today's situation, when are we expecting this project or these milestones to achieve? So if we are only talking about estimation done in the beginning and we only keep talking about variances, then we are not giving the complete information to our stakeholder. We need to forecast based on current situation, how are we going to end towards upcoming milestones. So this is cone of uncertainty and relationship to the estimation. Now, after having this background information, in our PMP exam, we have various types of estimate. You have analogous estimate, you have a parametric estimate, and you hear about a lot of things. So I want to talk about all these types of estimate for your exam perspective, as well as we relate with the concept of estimation. So many a time you hear about analogous estimate, sometimes also known as a top-down estimate, sometimes also known as a ballpark estimate, sometimes also known as a rough order of magnitude estimate. So this type of estimate is, you can say, very raw. It is holistically looking at the project and using your past experience directly at a project level and saying, this is something we think this project will take. So say you want to make a website and someone asks you, I want to have a shopping website, online shopping website. You have done these kind of projects before. You can say shopping website typically takes 6 to 9 months. Yeah, that's a rough order of magnitude. That's the analogous estimate you are doing because you have done such kind of websites before and you are directly putting that particular information. So directly applying expert judgment using your past data without getting into too much of the details of the project and doing that estimation is called analogous estimate. Where do we use it? We use it when we have to do estimation in the initial stages. What is the good part of analogous estimate? It's fast. You don't have to do a lot of calculation and a lot of data collection. We can do it quickly. What is bad about it? Definitely it is less accurate. Yeah. It may have an error of plus minus 50% depending upon how well you are matching with your current estimate with the past experience, but it will have high error. Whatever context it is, high could be 50% in 100% in some context, but it will have high error. So that's the parametric. Usually at a project charter level, at initial stages, you do analogous estimate. And analogous estimate is a starting point. And then we get into details. The second one, after analogous, I started talking about it in advance, is called parametric. So parametric estimate can be done in the beginning and can be done after collecting some data about your project. It requires collections of some of the characteristics of the project. And it also requires an organization having an estimation model which can use these characteristics to forecast the estimate. So say, same example, I want to make a website. Your organization might have created a model where they count number of pages on the website, and based on the number of pages, and they may put a technology and other information, they can find out how much time and money this website will take. So they will say, oh, you want to make a website? Let's figure out. They can have a further categorization. Maybe pages can be categorized into small, simple page, medium page, and complex pages. That could be a further extension of it. And they may ask this in number of information to you. And based on the number you feed into the system, our system will tell that this is the amount of time and money you are expected to take. So that will become a parametric estimate. So say you want to construct a house, maybe the company who has been doing this house construction business, they have accumulated a lot of information from the past and they have created a model. And based on the new information coming in, they may ask how much square feet area you want to cover in this particular house, and that information you feed into the model, and the model tells you that this much amount of time or this much amount of money can be estimated for this particular project. So you can see the accuracy is expected to be higher compared to analogous estimate. Yeah, it requires a little bit more information, not too many, but at least the parameters are needed. So more than analogous, that is needed. The risk is if you end up wrongly estimating the parameter, then our estimation will also go wrong. So say you just need a website and you wrongly estimated it will have a 20 page, but it is going to have 40 pages, then the whole model will start collapsing because your input parameter itself was wrong. Yeah. So that's a risk. The parameter information should be pretty strong. And the precondition is that you need to have a model which can help you in doing this particular estimate. So that's the second type of estimate we have explored till now. So we spoke about analogous, we spoke about parametric, and then we can say, yeah. I just want to see the questions. So I see the questions are there, but not on estimation. So I continue. And once we finish our estimation topic, I will definitely talk about these questions here. Yeah. Going back after parametric, bottom-up estimate. So that's a term which is mainly associated with collecting the estimated from bottom to up. In general, it means that you have to reach to a bottom level activities. So if you are following predictive life cycle, it requires getting into understanding of complete scope, understanding of work breakdown structure, dividing the work breakdown structure into small work packages, reaching to a work packages, reaching to the activities, and then working with the team, working with the experts to collect information at an activity level, and then aggregating it, and then finding the estimate. So if I go with the same example of a website, we can say, oh, let's identify what all modules we'll have. Let's identify what all pages we will create. And in each page, let's identify what kind of activities we'll do, say development, testing, and all. And let's identify how many hours development will take, how much our testing will take, how much time other activities will take. So we identify the number of pages, we identify maybe 10 activities per pages, and we identify who will do it, a typical resource. And then we also put a number and time to it. And then we aggregate back and we say, okay, this page will probably take this much time and this much money. This particular page will take this much. Then we accumulate it at a module level. And then finally, we tell about at a project level. We may also estimate the work and time associated with other project management activity, other quality assurance activity. And then we reach to a final project estimate. Yeah. So you can understand it will require detailing. It requires the detailed planning. It cannot be done quickly because the experts and people who are expected to know the scope has to be very clear. So it takes time. As it takes time, it improves the accuracy of the estimate. So it is like we do all three probably. You may not do parametric all the time, but you start with analogous. And as you get into the details, you start creating bottom-up estimate. So usually for our PMP exam, your baselines are coming based on bottom-up estimates. So you don't baseline based on analogous estimate, because analogous estimate, we do assume it is going to be more error prone. So there is no much use of doing variance analysis just at an analogous estimate level. So this is something called bottom-up estimate. You can say after scope statement and schedule is baseline, then only we can reach to this particular thing. Yeah. Now, 3-point estimates, usually associated with bottom-up estimate, but it can be done at any level. And it is saying in order to have a better accuracy, let's not put a one number for an estimation activity, identify pessimistic, optimistic, and most likely number. So a little more detail. So rather than just you asking, talk about page 1 and testing activity, you will say page 1 testing activity, what is a pessimistic estimate, what is an optimistic estimate, and what is the most likely estimate. Give me 3 points. Yeah. So it gets you a range. You can also see the variability in the range. If the optimistic and pessimistics are very wide, then you know the variability is high, uncertainties are high. If the pessimistic and optimistics are under narrow range and they are very close to most likely, then you know this particular team is having better capability and our estimation accuracy is better. Yeah. So this also gives you a feedback about your uncertainty in your project. Now there are further concepts to it. Usually comes in the PMP exam. They talk about PERT and beta distribution / triangular distribution. So usually these 3 points becomes difficult for calculation of overall project duration, critical path and all. So we need to put a one number at the end of it. So we calculate out of these 3.1 number for our general duration calculation purpose. And if we assume that all three are equally weighted, then we use triangular distribution. We just take an average of 3 and say this is the one number we will use for our overall estimation of project duration. If you assume the most likely is really most likely, then we use a PERT formula where we put a more weightage to most likely, and then we calculate the average number. Yeah. So by putting the most likely more weightage, yeah, that's a PERT or a beta distribution. So you can get 1 or 2 questions like this where you need to see this PERT number in your PMP exam. Now 2 more to go before we start talking about your questions. So all these estimations were more related to predictive life cycle. In adaptive life cycle, we do estimation at a 2 level. One is for long-term planning, usually called release planning. So release planning helps you to visualize the whole roadmap for the product, adaptive life cycle. And another is a iteration or a sprint level planning. So at a release level planning, we want to do high level estimate. We want to use expert judgment, little bit analogous style, mixed mode of it. And for that, we use a special technique, which is called story point estimation, where the team gets involved and they put a sizing number, yeah, which is not directly equivalent to duration. They put a sizing number in the format of story points. So we can use non-linear series, usually Fibonacci series or binary series or multiply by 2 series is used. Something to show that as things goes bigger, we need to have a more gaps. So it's like team come together and they put a rank on various work item, and the rank should be representing the amount of work, the amount of complexity involved in that particular work item. So they have the agile literature or the approaches talks about a special method called planning poker. So you bring your team together and you make them discuss about a set of requirements, and then you ask them to put the number which represents the size, complexity, and relative ranking. So relative ranking is basically like if something is 1, it is definitely less complex, less volume of work than 2. Yeah, but 1 may not represent 1 day. 1 may represent 1 day for me, 1 may represent 2 days for you. But both of us will say that 1 definitely represent it is lesser than 2 pointer, which we are giving to. So we identify our relative benchmarks, which is not directly linked to duration. Indirectly, they may get linked to a duration. If the same person is doing both the job, then you can say it may be around double the time the person will take into 2 pointer, assuming the surrounding condition remains the same. But there could be a little bit variability into exact effort we spend for our work, but we are putting the work based on complexity, volume, uncertainty, and we are putting those numbers. So that way of putting the number is called story pointing. And then we use these numbers with the help of our estimated velocity to forecast our future release durations. So that's a one type of estimate or a high level estimate you do in the agile way of working. Yes, it's a high level. It will have more errors, yeah, because we are not getting into the understanding of who will do what and how much time it will take and when we will do it. So we are doing it at a super high level. You can say around 10 to 20% minimum error is expected to happen. Whatever we forecast based on story points, it has to be improved as we go along. Yeah? So that's something we can assume for our, again, these numbers are example, just to relate in your mind. There is no published data which will say that this estimate will have this much error. Yeah, don't go there. But just for an understanding purpose, because each project is different, so you probably have your own benchmarks there. So that's a story point 1. And then when we start focusing on a particular iteration, yeah, so you get into the time box of iteration / sprint. In the beginning of that particular iteration, you do detailed planning for that particular iteration. There you break down that particular work item which you are taking in the iteration, you usually call user story, into various possible activities. You do identify who is expected to do it tentatively, if not for the whole 2 weeks. You do probably end up estimating how many hours or days it will take. You probably also identify the sequence of activities, because sequence may also get converted into amount of time it will take. And based on that, you create an estimate for those 2 weeks, and that is called sprint backlog, iteration backlog, and that is more definitive. Our expectation is that sprint level estimations should be at the accuracy of 5 to 10%, because they are at a pretty much at a detail level. Whereas the release level estimates may be at the accuracy of 20%. So we do every iteration detail estimation for that particular iteration in a bottom-up style. So you can say more or less the same technique which you apply bottom-up estimation for the whole project in our predictive life cycle. Here we are doing bottom-up approach only for the upcoming sprint duration, say 2 weeks, so that we have a better and refined estimates. Yeah. So I think that was a small crash course of 20 minutes on estimation for you. If you have any follow-up questions, first about estimation, we can start with that. I do see that we have other type of questions, which we definitely take here. I know this particular topic may take more than 2 hours to study in detail, but our assumption is you all already have an awareness. I just do a briefing so that we can set the context and get started talking about it. So the question is coming, estimation questions I am taking first. So top-down estimate is used to create cost estimate for the project without detailing the information and all. So we need to understand all estimates are interconnected. Cost, duration, resources, all are interconnected. So say you want to have experienced engineers or you want to have fresh engineers. You want to have a 10 engineers, you want to have a 20 engineers. Yeah. So you want to use automated tool, you don't want to use automated tool. You want to work in a co-location space, you want to work in a distributed space. All these elements will impact your cost. Where are you hiring people? You are hiring at a distributed environment, you are hiring at a particular city. And based on that, you also have a scope of work which will help you in projecting how much time it will take. Though sometimes we use a word that I'm doing cost estimate, but it is not possible to do a cost estimate without thinking about the scoping and resourcing and the distribution and the licensing and the time part of it. So whenever we talk about estimate, we can definitely assume that it's the intermixing of the resourcing, which may require human as well as material resources, automation tools and all, and timelines. Yeah. The geographical disbursement of the teams as well may play a role, and definitely everything will get aggregated into cost. So I would say the cost estimate is a final number. Yeah, it is not the starting number. But yes, if someone wants to just get a high level estimate, you are just thinking about a website and says, how much cost this website will take if I want to make a website like this? Person can get a high level number directly using analogous estimate also. But at the back of the mind, all 3 parameters were thought by that particular individual. Yes, we made this kind of a website before. It was like this. It took this much time. I think this will take this much of the cost. Yeah. So that we usually tell. And yes, analogous or top-down estimate is without much of information. So without much of the information, you can project duration also. You can project cost also. That's a high-level estimate, rough order of magnitude estimate, top-down estimate. These are the possible words you will use. And as you get into details, you start aggregating back and you create a bottom-up of it. And the bottom-up estimate should include all aspects of your projects. Yeah. Okay, so interesting question. In analogous and parametric estimate, both requires historical data. How do we differentiate between the two in the PMP questions? So a parametric estimate must talk about parameter. Yeah, the question should indicate something is there in the parameter. That's one important observation. Expert judgment, thinking about comparing with my past experience, which is usually involved with analogous, is needed in all the estimates actually. So even if I'm doing bottom-up estimate, whenever I'm thinking about a particular activity, I am applying my judgment thinking about that I have done a past activity, I have done a past testing like this, I will take this much time for the new testing. So actually that expert judgment is applied everywhere. But when I am looking for answer for analogous estimate, I need to see, is this expert judgment is directly applied at a project level? So when you see an indication of expert judgment directly coming at a project level, most likely it is going to be analogous. Yeah. And in a parametric, there has to be a clear indication of data used, proper data used, not a judgment. Yeah. Systematic data used and some parameter is visible. In case of analogous, systematic data is not used. It's not like that I have done 10 such particular website before and this was the different time and that was the average duration and that's why I'm doing it. If I'm putting that much calculation, it is not coming as an analogous. So I think these 2-3 things will work. And then if you have a specific question in our question database, we'll discuss as usual there as we have been doing. Yeah, but don't go here and there, Rahul, because There's a lot of content and it may confuse you based on our previous conversations. So better stick to, we have enough questions. They will help you to practice it well. Yeah. Now, what role of estimation tool or software play in estimation in improving the accuracy? So usually it plays a role when you do parametric estimate in some field of work, non-IT field of work, where you have a proper model-based estimation process in place. There, the tool can definitely store the data, predict the things based on the parameters you put in. So if your organization is working in a construction or some engineering kind of environment, where historical data is available, which is quite reliable as well. There, the tools which accumulate, provide some statistical analysis, which is our parametric estimate, may play a role. In the IT side of the world, it is difficult because the variability is very much, and historical data is usually not that much reliable. Because the tools keeps changing very fast, the technology keeps moving, people keep moving. So it's very difficult to say that previous website was done with in 10 months, the new website of the same size will also take this much time. Maybe they will use different technology, the people are different, so it becomes a little difficult to use parametric or historical data at a high reliability level. Yeah. So for a PMP exam perspective, you can definitely ignore. You can say, yeah, if the tool is information is coming, you can model. Yeah. Okay, so another estimation question before we go further. So how do you address stakeholder expectation when the initial estimates are not equal to the actual estimate? So that is all about project management. In the PMP exam, you need to be very clear that that is my role. Yeah. I need to manage expectations of my stakeholder, and I need to create complete transparency with them. When I estimate in the initial stage, I don't give them a feeling that this is going to happen without failure. Now, if they want to have a date without failure, that's a separate point. That's not an estimation. That may be a commitment, and you may need to put a lot of contingencies if the date is very, very important for them. The same example of going to an airport and catching the flight. But estimation will always have errors. So my role as a project manager is making my assumptions clear. If I have estimated something and I have never shared my assumptions, yeah, then I'm doing my mistake. So I need to share my assumption, I need to share my risk, I need to show the uncertainty in the estimate, and I need to share that estimate. Yeah, I can say this is what it is, these are the situations we have seen, these are the assumptions we have made, and these are the risks we have, and based on today's information, this is the best of our judgment. I'm not purposefully making mistake in my estimation, but I and my team has a limitation in seeing the future. So we, based on our limited information, we are doing our best service, and then we are telling that we will revisit it after a particular duration. So after 1 month, when we have a more information available, when we have our assumption validated, came true, false, we need to revisit the estimation and share it again. So complete transparency, expectation management, keeping my data and revisiting of the forecasted date always fresh is something my accountability as a project manager. Now, if someone doesn't want to listen to that, then again, I need to make him aware. I need to educate. I can't say that this guy is taking the first estimate as a final estimate. At least for exam or even interview, I look back to me, because project manager is my focus area. And I say, oh, looks like I am unable to set the right expectation. Yeah? So I need to manage expectation, and I need to set the expectation. That's my role as a project manager. And I need to first myself clear that estimation always have an error, but I need to manage the error progressively to make it accurate, yeah, by revisiting it. Okay, so I start with the other questions. Yeah, there are 2 more estimation questions I see. And then we talk about your question. There is a question related to hard logic, soft logic. We'll take it that. Yeah. So backlog refinement is an activity in the agile way of working where we do high level estimate at story points. That's something we do. At what frequency you do, you need to figure out your process. There is no defined frequency. You can do it weekly, you can do bi-weekly, you can do at your own style. Yeah. So no framework defines it, but you need to have it. You are the one who is the owner of that process. You need to find your frequency. Now we need to work with the product owner and engineering lead to come up with a rough order of magnitude. So I think that's so I think that has been clear once we covered the estimation part. Now, little bit of non-estimation question, project scheduling question. So what do you mean by hard logic, soft logic? Can you explain? So say this particular topic is related to dependencies. So when you have two dependencies, one could be a mandatory dependency, which is also called hard logic. Another could be a discretionary dependency, which is soft logic. Soft is something which you can deviate. Hard is something which you cannot deviate. So for example, you know that after development, I want to do testing. So it's a hard logic. You can't test before develop, assuming you are not doing test-driven development. Yeah. Or you can say, I want to do a painting of the wall, but I can't paint the wall till the time wall is not there. That's a hard logic. I can't finish my painting activity anyway. Yeah? So I have a mandatory dependency, also known as a hard logic. That's a relationship. But if you have an approach that better you need to take sign off on the design, then only you start your implementation. It's always a good idea to take a sign off, because then the risk of rework is reduced. So you have put the dependency. But actually, the design sign off is not something which is blocking you to start implementation. You can start it, but you are taking a risk of starting something without taking an approval. That is called soft logic or discretionary dependency. So ideally, we don't want to violate those discretionary dependency. But when I'm doing schedule compression, I am in a hurry to finish something and I'm looking for option, then I will probably start compromising my soft logic or discretionary dependency and will take calculated risk. I am definitely taking a risk when I am compromising those kind of dependencies. Yeah. So that's the hard logic / soft logic. Hopefully that makes it clear. So estimation, guess estimation. For our PMP exam, we don't use the word guess estimation. We just use estimation, which means that we are estimating based on our assumption. If someone says my assumptions are very poor, then some person says guess estimation. But estimation is always error prone. You are definitely making your assumptions. And as a project manager, my role is I make my assumptions clear. The major problem in the project management is we don't document our assumptions. We don't even tell our assumption. Document is just for a media of communicating. So somehow you need to communicate your assumptions, because the other person cannot read your mind. If you ask someone how much time it will take and you will say 10 days. Now the person is not clear what is your thinking process and what are your assumptions. You might be assuming a very nice weather for next 10 days. Yeah, but you never told the person, you say, based on these critical assumptions, I am forecasting it will take 10 days. And that's something we need to consume. I don't know about this question, why we are not estimating the subtask. So I don't know the context. If you are talking about agile estimation, we spoke about, we do two level of estimation. One is at a release planning level, at a story point level, and then at a sprint level, and how much detail the sprint level, iteration level estimation team wants to go. There is no restriction. You can do subtask, subtask every hour, every day, you can do it. Yeah. It is something we need to agree on what is helpful for us to achieve our sprint objective with the accuracy of 90 to 95%. Because we want to make sure that we estimate so that we can definitely achieve our sprint goal. So in the agile way of working, we can assume our sprint level estimation should be fine-grained enough so that we can achieve our sprint goal with high probability, say 90% plus probability. When we do release level estimate, when we do story point level estimate, when we do product backlog level estimate, we don't want to achieve that accuracy level, because that accuracy level achievement takes more time. So we are saying even with a 20% error, what is the forecasted date? So let's do the estimation at a level which gives us sufficient forecast without getting into too much investment into breakdown of it. So that was the intent when I explained the story pointing, release estimation, and iteration estimate for us in the project management activities. So there is no subtask, task, or something. Up to you. You call something subtask, you call something activity, whatever. Yeah, in our project management world, we call it activity, but we need to focus on the goal rather than what is called something. So goal is high accuracy at a sprint level, sufficient judgment stakeholder alignment, forecasting at a release level. And that's why we use different estimation techniques there. So how do we track the reliability, accuracy of our estimates? That's the core thing. Yeah? So as a project management, if I don't take a feedback, each of my planning activity must have a feedback. Without feedback, there is no planning. I can't just assume that whatever I have planned will go right. So how do I know my estimates are right? I need to just revisit them periodically. So usually in a predictive life cycle, we talk about phase and reviews of our estimate. In case of sprint level, sprint and we know what was our estimated velocity and what was our real velocity. We do a review at the end of every sprint. Now, how do we know your estimation was right or not? Usually by seeing actual versus estimation. So you know you've planned few things in the sprint and the actual things was different. You know there was an error in the estimation, and you also learn how this estimation error is going to impact our future estimates. Simple. Similarly, in the predictive life cycle also, whenever you are doing your weekly report, whenever you are doing monthly report, you know what was your estimate and what is your current reality. So usually in a predictive life cycle, we keep one reference point, and that reference point is also called baselines. So we calculate the start date, end date of various key milestones based on various key activities as well as milestone based on our baseline plan. And then we track our variances against the baselines. That, okay, we were expected to finish our phase 1 on 15th of May. We are already here in the end of May, but we are not done. And our estimated finish for this phase 1 is 5th July. So we can say, okay, the baseline was 15th May, the estimated is 5th July. This is the variance, and how this variance impact my project end date. That is my key responsibility as a project manager. I need to present it. So whenever I talk about weekly report, monthly report, I need to project how are we doing and how we want to end our project or our milestones in a given timeline. I think I also got this question somewhere in the YouTube. I think I missed commenting about it, but yeah, that was also talking that how do I know if I am on track or not. Yeah. So what if I realize my estimations are always 30% wrong? My estimates are, even I'm in the mid of the project and I am doing 40% wrong estimate, and that is creating a lot of problem for my future forecast. So our project management will say, do corrective and preventive actions. So correct your remaining things, yeah, estimate and prevent such kind of occurrence happening. How do I do it? I may do a lesson learned, I may do a retrospective, I may do a root cause analysis, I need to see where are the trend. So all the tools which we use, our quality tools, root cause analysis, Pareto analysis are at my availability. And based on that, I need to find out how do we fix these estimation errors. Yeah? So you need to face the reality. That is the whole idea. Okay, so that seems to be an estimation topic till now. All good about the estimations. But if there is something else, we can talk as well. Yeah. Now for PMP exam, the variances matrix, the earned value management matrices will also hold value. At least 2 questions will come from earned value management, though the calculation will not come. That's pretty much not seen from long time. But having some understanding of calculating SV, CPI, SPI, which gives you cost performance index and schedule performance index, is desirable. So these are the matrices which frequently used. Yeah, that's there. And in case of agile way of working, yeah, variances matrix, as I told, also get used. And in the agile way of working, as we discussed in our previous sessions, so release burn down chart, all those iteration burn down chart, and velocity trend, which probably help you to project the burn down charts, are expected to be used. Yeah, so depending upon those, but overall, when you see the error are there, you need to do corrective and preventive actions and improve it. Yeah. So if specifically for a PMP exam, the earned value management is a good metrics for predictive, and burn down chart, release level burn down charts are good metrics for your adaptive way of working. Okay, looks like till now questions are done. And if we have something, probably we can discuss. So is the story point with based on hours or days, I think. So for agile story point related topic, primary for this, I created separate 4 videos, which can give you more depth about it. But for a PMP perspective, we are saying that it is not equivalent to day. Yeah, so the 4th video talks about story point is equal to hour or not. But first I need to introduce what is story point, what is estimate, what is story points, how do you do story pointing, and then we address the 4th point, story point is equal to hour or day. Yeah, so that's something we address. So I recommend those 4 videos probably if that's an area of interest for you. Now, one story point equal to 1 day. Okay, but who's 1 day? Who is that person who will say, I will finish this story point in 1 day? Yeah. Now you will say, oh, the person who will work. But when we are doing story point estimation, we do not necessarily identify that person. Yeah. We are doing at a level where team is evaluating it. So the assumption or the utility of story point is at that point in time, we are not identifying resource allocation. Yeah? We are not doing that detailed planning. If I'm using project management language, I'm not identifying dependency. I'm not identifying exact sequence because the amount of hour I take, it depends who does it, when he does, what are the stories which are already finished by that time, what kind of code I can reuse. I need to understand that perspective. If I don't have that perspective, then how do I tell this is going to take 1 day or 2 days? In a predictive life cycle, when we estimate our bottom-up estimate in that level, we have that clarity. In a predictive life cycle, we directly don't jump saying this task will take 2 days. We first identify the whole set of tasks. We sequence the activity. We put people on those activity, and then we ask them how much time you will take. Yeah. So we are saying that is the reason we can't do that. Now, if you want to do it, maybe do it the similar way. Yeah, that's as a project management we have to think about. So we can say in a sprint planning level, when we are getting into details, then this is something which is useful. If it is before that, even if I say it's a 1 day of work, but whose 1 day of work? Yeah. So that is, maybe you want to create that person. So you may create a person called person X who has a 20 years of experience or 10 years of experience, who works from office, not from home. Yeah, who comes at 9 a.m. in the office and stays till 6 p.m. and never goes for break in between. And for that guy, probably one story point will take 1 day. I think no problem. If you take that kind of benchmark, that's perfectly okay. Yeah, that's perfectly okay because it makes people think that Mr. X will take 1 day. But I'm not Mr. X. I'm working from home. I'm taking 2 hours to reach, and I have 10 calls to attend in between. There are so many escalations happening. But Mr. X takes no call when he's doing the work. He just work on this particular thing. So if you can create that kind of hypothetical character, then it is perfectly to put that number. And usually in our agile language, we call it ideal days estimate. So you can do ideal days estimate. You can say, yeah, why not? Why not? We do an ideal days estimate. Let's not confuse with the story points. Let's do an ideal day estimate. Then define the ideal person, an ideal day, and then you put the number there. Yeah. So again, my stakeholder can expect anything. My responsibility is, I don't say story point is equal to day or not day. I don't use that word. I use the context. As a project manager, I need to tell them that this is the context. I don't know who is that person. So it's difficult for me to tell how long this guy will take. My team member has quite heterogeneous skills. Someone is working in this project for 5 years, someone is just 5 months. So we have a heterogeneity. So it's difficult to tell. If you want to have a day, let's create one typical character and says, we will estimate his days. And then you call it ideal days. Yeah, you can do it. Or you can call story point also, but think about that guy. No problem. Yeah, that gives you probably a good accuracy. The whole idea is the estimation should serve the purpose of forecasting, depending upon at level it is done. Yeah? Rest all is your process. Nobody can tell you, but we should be knowing reasons. That's something I should do as a project manager. Yes, so nicely pointed out that estimation of the current sprint can be done at a detail level, and we can do it. Yes, yeah. Now, can we do sprint in hours? You decide. You can do in a day also. Now, like Rashekar, I'm not clear why we are using subtask in your hour base. So I am not saying use it. Yeah. So I don't get an answer why, because I'm not saying, so how can I justify it should be used? What I'm saying is the estimation should be done at a level which helps you in creating better accuracy for the sprint. Now, in our project management language, we call it agreeing about our scheduling approach. Sometimes we say, in order to have a better accuracy, we want to do at a day level. Sometimes we will say we want to do at an hour level. Sometimes you may decide not to go to hour or day level, just story point is good enough. All three are perfectly okay, because the purpose is we should be able to reach our sprint goal most of the time. That is the level of accuracy. Now, generally for the new teams, it might make sense to understand who will do it, and they may become a bigger number. Maybe people start putting at the range of hour. Now, hour also you have to decide, will you go for 1 hour or 4 hour or 8 hour? So you need to make an agreement. We will say, okay, we will do estimation not less than 4 hours, not more than 16 hours. I have seen usually this is what we call schedule management plan in our project management language. So we need to agree to our schedule management plan that, okay, in this team, how do we do estimate? Should we put an hour? Okay, if you put it, what kind of numbers we use? Because you should not have a situation where you put half an hour situation. At the same time, you should also not have a situation where people put a 7 days work directly. So we need to find out that balance. And as a project leader, scrum master, whatever name I give to myself, my goal is the estimation should be done at a level which serves the purpose of that particular thing. So we should be doing at a level which help us in forecasting. Can we really finish it? It help us in finding out, are we really doing as much we can do? And if there are some coordination or some kind of new challenges are coming, we should be able to find it out. That's it. That's the purpose of project manager. So in a project management world, there is nothing right and wrong. So in a PMP exam, you can't say the task should be at a level of hour. You can't say task should be at a level of day. You can't say the task should be a level of a week. All three are right. But we need to understand the task should be at a level based on the project complexity. You agree in your schedule approach. And when you have that agreement with your team, you make sure it is good enough to give you a sufficient amount of forecasting for your work. That's the only purpose. Okay, so we have a sharing here more. Yeah, so complexity effort need to be considered navigating to estimate. Great, yeah, that's the great idea. Yes. User stories are estimated, then we put into the developers to create many tasks. Okay, that's your thing. Yeah, you may do a task, but subtasks are not estimated. Good. Yeah, your explanation. Good sharing. Yeah. Here we are saying subtasks are estimated in the hours. We have clarity on the exact task. Great. Yeah. So everything is right if it serves the purpose. Yeah. You cannot have a one process for heterogeneous team, for heterogeneous skill, for heterogeneous requirement. You own your process. And if it is working for you, continue it. If it's not working for you, do a retrospective and fix it. Yeah. But please don't think, for at least for as a project manager, we are always believe in project manager and project management team owns the process. The process is not dictated by anyone. The process is created by project team in order to achieve the objective of the project, not to follow some book. Yeah, that's something we need to focus on. Okay, then we have subtasks are help developer to break down into smaller and manageable parts if they are doing great. Yeah. So all these things are acceptable. I see many organizations where they don't do subtasking. They directly work on user story level because the teams is mature. Great. Yeah. So they can also do that. No problem. Yeah. But accuracy should be good at a sprint level. Yeah. Thank you, Anil, for sharing. You have been sharing good ideas. Thank you. Okay. So another 10 minutes, maybe, probably. So if you have anything else, maybe sharing is also good. I will click and let you share your idea here. So around like 2012, when I started giving training, yeah, my first set of trainings were more IT and software oriented. And I used to train a lot on a topic called software estimation alone. And at that time, the first thing I need to make clear to those, it used to be a series of corporate classes for project managers and things, 2012 and all. So the first thing I need to make clear people about this only, that there is no magic way to estimate it right. The only way to estimate right is do it again and again and again. So people used to enter in the class hoping that I will give them some formula which will help them in estimating right. And the formula is that you need to do estimation again and again. So it used to take time, and then we used to get into model. That point in time, I used to teach them the function point model. Yeah, the FP model was very commonly used during that particular time. So we used to use that, yeah, function point methods. Yes, and then so many others. Yeah, gradually we had many. Okay, we have a question. So why we comparing our capacity with our estimated story? Example, total actual team 400 hours, team closed 40 story points. Not sure which framework tells you to do that. Probably you need to find out why are you doing it. Yeah. So for our PMP exam, project management perspective, there is no such practice. There is no such matrix which you need to focus on, where you calculate number of hours and you calculate number of story points and have some correlationship. So there is no generic practice. If your company is doing, then probably you need to say why your company is doing it. They must have a reason for it. And what we do as a project manager, and especially agile coaches, whenever we have a practice, we never say it's a right practice or wrong practice. We need to understand why is this practice, what are the benefits associated with it, and what are the risks associated with it. So probably you need to find out what is the reason behind capacity versus estimated story point matrix. Yeah, you need to figure it out, and what benefit people are getting, you need to understand that. From my perspective, it seems to be a risky thing, and it will probably dilute the story point estimation also. It depends what is the purpose of this matrix. If this purpose of the matrix is to see historical trend, then I see no problem with it. I say, oh, we have finished 20 sprints before. I want to see a correlationship, how we have been doing in last 20 sprints behind our velocity in hours, so that I can understand how possibly our future forecast, because I'm thinking about adding people or removing people from the team. So I want to have some analysis. I see there is no risk there. People can do that. But if I say that I want to use it when the people do sprint planning, I want to make sure that they pick this much story point work, and I want to use it to make a sprint plan right, then it will probably dilute my story point estimation also. People may start playing with the story points, and I may not get the desired number. So it depends why your company is using it or why you are using it. It's not something which is used generically. Yeah, that's for sure. But if you are using it, you need to know the reasons behind it. If you are an agile coach or a scrum master, you need to first respect the people who are using it, and then ask the questions to find out what benefit they get and what are the risks associated with using these kind of metrics. You can present it. That's the possible thing you can do. Good. So yes, we have spoken about a lot of things other than PMP exam related topics as well. But I try to bring it back to the project management. And I think by bringing it back to PMP, it gives me a little boundary, because organizations are very heterogeneous and your processes are designed for your problem. And anyone judging your process may be not the right thing to do. So just saying right and wrong may not be a good idea. But when I bring it around PMP, it becomes easy. I can say these are the common things which we need to do. You need to own it, you need to modify it. And it keeps us away from a specific problem, because very specific problem is very difficult to capture here in a short conversation. We probably don't know the whole context behind the uses of those particular matrices. Yeah. So there are advantages and disadvantages associated with this approach. Okay, so before we conclude, any set of questions for our Power Hour 27? Okay, Anil is sharing something. So he's sharing that they don't compare the capacity and velocity. Customer needs working software, and So yeah. So not necessary. Yeah. So sometimes what happens is, especially if you are using SAFe and if you have recently attended SAFe Agile training. So in the training, they have a one slide, which is little dangerous slide because people don't understand the intent behind that slide. And that slide tells, if you are somewhere just starting your SAFe implementation from zero, then probably you can count the number of days available and equate with some story points. Yeah. That's they tell. And then they clearly tell that don't recalibrate it, don't do it again. Just do it once. And afterward, take the real velocity. Going forward, maybe in a first PI planning meeting, in a first sprint, you can do it, but not from a second sprint onwards. Now, many a time, people just read their slide. They don't see. In my class, I first put the cross to that slide and says, guys, please don't think it's the final thing. You all are coming to an environment where you have been doing it, so ignore it. Yeah. And then I explain and say not to repeat it in your interviews. Don't use it. Yeah. It is just for first time start. But I meet many people who end up speaking like this in their interview session, and they end up making mistake. Yeah. Then they say, somebody asks, how do you do your upcoming capacity planning and velocity planning for your upcoming PIs and velocity thing? And they use the same example which they have studied in that slide. Especially the one who have not attended my class, else I remind them not to do it. And then it becomes a little disaster because the interviewer will say, what are you doing? You are just counting the number of people and saying these many story points will deliver. That is something is little risky. Yeah. So please, especially if you are coming from few initial SAFe training, the slide you see in your PI planning content, which equates the hours and all, please read the fine print of it. It clearly says it is just for one time, not to get repeated again. So you can do it one time, plus don't repeat it again. Yeah, that's the idea. And if my management is seeing that particular slide only, then I can remind them again by showing the slide again that it was only told to be used once, not again. Afterwards, we will use our real data and then we will build on top of it. Yeah, that's a good reminder for them as well. But yeah, that's a little beyond PMP. PMP exam will not have all these challenges, but yes, it is little beyond PMP about Agile and scaled Agile. Yes. Okay, so we are approaching our closing time. If someone has a query, please let me know before I close the session for today. I think we experimented with the time and looks like this time seems to be a better one. Looks like, yeah, seems to be. I think it will take few iterations before we know our estimate was right or wrong, or our forecasting was right or wrong. Yes, it is difficult to guess right now. So only by doing we can know it was right or wrong. Yeah. Okay, then thank you everyone for your participation. Lots of queries, lots of discussions. And this is something is good. So can I join your SAFe 6 sessions? Yes, I keep doing, Anil. I do all SAFe 6 sessions. I do leading SAFe, I do product owner, I do Scrum Master, and everything is lined up, yeah, in the upcoming weeks. So just see whenever, whichever you want to do. Yes, I do. Okay, so great. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Yeah, we'll pick up some topic as usual. If you have some idea, you can drop me a message also for a recommendation for a topic till tomorrow. Else I will pick up something and publish the session soon. Yeah. Thank you for now. Bye, everyone.